Welcome to You Can't Make This Shit Up. David Washington, I'm Kellen Clark, and today we are talking about policy agenda from America's favorite 45th president by default, Donald Trump.
Donald J. Trump. Now, this particular conversation, for me at least, when I read the article, goes back to what we discussed earlier this year about Project 2025. And it is a conservative agenda. Yes, I said agenda. There is a playbook, 200 pages worth, called Project 2025. Wait, I'm being corrected. How many pages?
Hold on, everybody.
It's a playbook for 2025, January 2025. Yes, Joel.
This is Joel. Listen, you did not actually watch my last episode?
No, I did not. I apologize.
Project 2025 is actually 920 pages long. So
I had the summary.
It's 920 pages, and I have read a huge portion of it to try to go do my last episode. So, David, for you to give it the benefit of only being 200 pages, that's a beautiful thing. but tell our audience, I'll tell the audience I had to break in because it's 920 pages long, and it's basically not a conservative issue in there at all. It's a total takeover of the total power grab of the executive branch.
Yes. Wow. Okay. So this is far beyond
what the it's for any Republican to take office.
David, do you have it pulled up?
The article or
the article? The article.
Yes, I do.
Well, we should go down the line and tell the viewers all about what we have here, because some of this stuff, and there's an emerging tactic that I will inform you on later that informs a lot of things about this.
Well, they're talking about dismantling the deep state.
David, who is the deep state? Don't answer that. It's the FBI and it's the Department of Justice, which obviously makes perfect sense for Donald Trump. You know, he didn't cooperate with law enforcement officials, so the FBI kicked down his door. Bro got butthurt. Bro has to take him down. You know, he's under investigation. He's so convinced that he's innocent, or at very least so projecting that he's innocent, that he actually has to take down the Justice Department to prove it.
Yikes.
Yeah, for a candidate who supports law and order, it is extremely disappointing, as our Dan told me. He's defunding the police.
That's right, because the DOJ is law enforcement.
And the FBI is law enforcement.
So, therefore, defunding the police by Donald Trump.
And if my biggest complaint about Donald Trump, the Tea Party Republicans, and everything about it is that they're fake conservatives. They put on the disguise that, we're conservatives, but that's not what they mean. They are by and large, for high levels of state power. They're for conservative issues. They're for trying to make America think that the way they do.
So is this like a autocracy we're talking about?
Probably not that far.
Okay.
But, I mean, if Project 2025 gets its way, you never know. You never really know for sure. North Carolina, do whatever. Just get it done. Watch that episode. It is one of the most troubling issues we have encountered in American history on a state level. Mm-hmm. Go watch that episode. That's about as bad as it gets.
The secret police.
Secret police.
So next on their agenda is the U.S.-Mexico border.
Yeah. Obviously, okay, if there's a conservative issue here that Donald Trump is actually championing, it is this one. However, the emerging tactic that I mentioned earlier is marketing. It is upselling his opponents. It's not bringing unique ideas at all. There's only one unique idea, and it's not a good one. All that his opponents have been talking about in the Republican Party is immigration. Where do we build the border wall? How do we break up the cartels? Are they holding back the economy for natural-born citizens? You have Ramaswamy talking about birthright citizenship.
Correct.
Immigration.
And birthright citizenship.
Yes. And so if you want to elaborate on this, what Donald Trump is suggesting is full-blown military action against the people already in the country, and he's promised the biggest wave of deportation in history.
10 million people. I heard
Holy
recently.
smokes!
10 million people.
That's a lot of people. I kind of miss the days of Ronald Reagan when anybody could be an American.
Who's Ronald Reagan?
I hear he's not from the government and he's here to help. Favorite governor of California.
So, and also in this whole immigration issue, Trump would bring back the Muslim ban.
Oh yes.
7 countries identified as seven Muslim-led countries identified in this past action will be, this ban will be reinstated, and in an effort to root out Muslim terrorists.
7 terrorist nations.
Yeah.
7 terrorist nations
that just happen to be Muslim.
Yes.
Okay.
It's all by sheer coincidence. You know, Donald Trump is nothing if not a PR man. We've talked about this before.
Yes.
His skills in business, at least one of his skills from business, transferred over to the field of politics. When the conflict in Israel first broke out, he called Hamas smart. You know, he said he was smart, he respected the strategy, all of that. But in his recent stating of his policy platform, he's now demonizing Hamas, and he is completely flipped. It's because he's trying to match with the public and, stand with Israel, oppose the Muslim world. It's, at least that's the way I see it. It's siding with public opinion, and I think that's the key of it, not any specific deeper policy. That's the way I see it.
I don't think he was supporting Hamas in the way you think he was saying they're being smart, they're being strategic, they're doing the right thing for themselves.
Right.
He never said I support what they're doing.
No,
that's true.
That's
what you're making it sound like.
Yes,
he's always been on the side of Israel.
Yes,
I
correct.
mean, he's the only one who's just the way it came across is that you're saying
it was more. You're right. It was more of a.
He also said that that Putin was
yeah,
a great guy and was doing the right thing for his people.
Yeah, right. He I think he is partially in that mindset of game recognizes game.
Right.
However, in a conflict where Americans died, days after presenting that, without pushing for Israel concurrent with that message, it gave the wrong impression to a lot of voters. That gave the media a field day, and I think even though he is on the side of Israel, it does shoot him. It does shoot him in the foot with his credibility, even if deep down that.
We'll revisit foreign relations. Let's jump to trade. Trump talked about imposing a 10%, a series of tariffs, up to 10%, maybe more, on foreign countries that impose tariffs on us. And if they manipulate their currencies, he will find a way to punish them.
Yes. There is a long-standing history of the U.S. government in tariffs, going all the way back to Thomas Jefferson. And there's one, you have the Thomas Jefferson, you have the agricultural tariffs in the 1890s, you have the Smoot-Hawley tariff. You know what all these programs have in common, David?
No, I do not.
They sucked complete ass. The Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act was a powerful contributor to the Great Depression on the basis that it made goods more expensive. In a time of severe unemployment, it pushed inflation. With the failures in agriculture, it was meant to protect American industry, but the equipment that farmers needed, the equipment that they used, became more expensive, and everything became moot. The embargo from Jefferson days, if any of y'all remember history, the "oh grab me," because they would say it backwards because the government didn't like him talking about it that way. It crippled merchants' abilities to operate overseas, to export American product, because tariffs bring out retaliation. You tariff a place, they might just tariff you right back. They might retaliate you right back. It promotes conflict, and the cost of tariffs, it doesn't help Americans because we pay the price for it in higher priced goods. It's an inflation risk.
Wasn't there some pushback with Trump's tariffs, I believe, against China or in regards to agriculture?
He put a bunch of tariffs. His favorite good to tariff was steel. Mm-hmm. And he also advocated for foreign cars. That got struck down like hard because this was something that was suggested in the 70s, and we recognized back then that it was a mistake.
Right.
You have to have competition in an advanced industry like that. The tariffs on something like tomatoes farmed by Uyghurs is very different than as an economic game. Taking a moral stand, that kind of stand is very different from, trying to mark up foreign goods.
Trump has proposed a 40-year program to remove any type of Chinese product from America, any type of imports, any type of service, any type of Chinese ownership of our infrastructure, sensitive infrastructure. That's a bold plan to not have to
never
trade with China.
Yeah, never see the made in China sticker, and I wish him all the luck because he would need it. Unfortunately, fortunately, America is not an industrial economy much anymore. It's really not.
It's a service community.
It is a service sector oriented economy. Right. And I don't think, and what we saw from the Donald Trump presidency was that there was not really much push for that. We're seeing some now with the Biden administration because now they're noticing the foreign relation power of things like semiconductors. But if you were to go down that route of pulling Chinese products off of all of our shelves, you would have to change a whole hell of a lot. More people would have to work in factories again. And even if it would maybe be ideal for us, I don't think most will. Right. I guess it's a noble goal, trying to be self-sustaining, not supporting a group ideologically opposed to us. But strategically speaking, I don't have confidence in it. I really don't.
So kind of jumping back to foreign relationship, foreign policy, Trump is steadfast in coming to a solution for the war between the Ukraine and Russia. He said he'll take care of that before he's even sworn into office, and he's steadfast in his support of Israel. Mm-hmm. But NATO's on the table. It's possibly on the chopping block.
Yes, it's a little bit interesting. And if there's one thing Donald Trump is good at, it's being a hype man for himself. Nobody. I mean, there's a reason his fan base is as devoted and cult-like as it is, because he does such a good job promoting himself, saying that if you elect me before I'm even inaugurated, the conflicts will be solved. No, it won't, but that's the kind of hype that will interest a lot of voters who are, barely, giving it a glance.
Right.
I suspect, given Trump's previous foreign policy, he previously wanted to pull back from a lot of the NATO side of our alliance and orient ourselves more towards some of the more authoritarian areas, your North Koreas, your Russias, those kinds of groups, for good and bad reasons. I suspect that a resolution in Russia and Ukraine from Trump would be in favor of Russia. Okay. I would say more likely to be in favor of Russia. You never know for sure. We do have a vested interest in keeping the agrarian lands of Ukraine out of the hands of Russia, but that is a whole nether can of worms.
So we move to more local issues.
Yes, this one.
One of the issues that has garnered a ton of debate for at least the last several election cycles is the rights of the LGBTQIA plus community, and particularly transgender persons' rights. And Trump has proposed that Congress he'll present a bill, or that Congress pass a bill that will state that there are only two genders.
Yeah, and that
recognizing only two genders.
Yeah, that this country will no longer recognize transgender people as being a thing, you know, and if they do, it would be in the context of a mental illness. You know, this is, you know, we like talking strategy. This has been a topic from many of his opponents, Ron DeSantis being a very notable one, you know, here in Florida.
Correct.
Transgender. People like Ted Cruz, you know, who have a problem with a lot of with a lot of marketing that comes from them.
Right.
He's like, okay, I'm the same as them, but I take it further. And again, that is the cornerstone of his policy. Doing what his fellow conservatives are doing, but more,
right.
bigger, more pizzazz, more flash.
He will also seek a ban on
gender affirming care
for transgendered minors.
That is ultimately a whole nother discussion, but that's his position, and I think it'll be popular with a group of voters that is becoming more and more vocal.
Okay, now we're talking about more domestic issues again. Energy policy. Trump wants to drill, baby, drill.
The thing with fossil fuels, by and large, is not just the fact that it's destructive. Obviously, China is the biggest polluter, not us. We're not the biggest polluters. Doesn't mean that we can't be the world leader in things. That's just my quick little tangent about clean energy. You know, he wants to drill a lot more, you know, drill baby drill. That's his new motto for it. And again, it's the motto of Vivek Ramaswamy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, drill baby drill. Fossil fuels number one. But there are plenty of problems if you over rely on one source of energy. You know, why are we always entangled in the Middle East, even if some of their things don't concern us?
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't drill.
Because our business is there.
Because they do all the drilling now.
Texas,
and the cartel has control.
Most of American oil comes from Texas already, right. But still.
Because we can't get it out of Alaska where it's abundant because we...
leave the refuge alone.
So, you know...
It's beautiful there. I haven't been there.
I mean, that's true. You can never get it back.
Probably will go there.
So, your clean energy could be a whole conversation in itself, right. Because you use the dirtiest energy, coal to get you electricity that you're powering your cars with. You know what? We need to be... this is where I disagree with Trump on his approach on it, but I agree. We need to be energy independent. That means drill, baby, drill right now and change the resources while we have the resources. Change them to the clean energy sources.
Right. But however, he wants to exit the climate change accord
because we're already the number
kind of move away from
because we're already number one.
Exactly
we're already number one in reduction
in
the world, but nobody else is following the
we could be that oasis in a land
exactly.
So we can be the least polluted and the most polluted.
I like my clean air and clean water.
But we're getting all theirs.
You know, I think the idea that, you know, because China and India are blasting fossil fuels, that is a signal for us to not move away. What a loser mindset in my mind. Come on, guys. America is the leader of things. We don't need to follow what other people do.
Kellen, as a member or as part of the Gen Z cohort, right?
That's me.
And this is an issue that many members of that cohort embrace. How important is energy policy to you as a...
It's up there. I think there's a couple policies that would edge it out for me, but it is up there. Ultimately, prices can be very unstable. You know, gas, when people are talking about inflation, they're talking about gas prices. A lot of oil, not about a third of our oil comes from OPEC. And OPEC is a group of petroleum producing nations.
It's a cartel. You can say it. We'll say it. It's a cartel.
I was going to say a collusion, like a monopoly, but
no, it's a cartel.
It is kind of a cartel. You know, it's about cooperating with each other to make sure the supply is nice and low so that the price is nice and high. We can drill in Texas and Alaska. That will only sustain so long. We've been drilling in Texas for a long time. I think it's we've got at least a small step forward with, more reliance on natural gas as opposed to coal. Coal is the worst energy source on the planet. It is the dirtiest and the least efficient. It is, I think wind is a little more inefficient.
I'm going to say least efficient.
Wind, that goes to wind. But
yeah.
But when you compare coal to oil, natural gas, large scale solar, when you compare it to geothermal, hydroelectric,
you do know that
nuclear,
you do know that solar. Right. You do know that solar does not produce as much as coal does.
Photovoltaic does not. However, larger scale deserted plants of reflectors can.
We're getting into the weeds here. Let's move on to education.
Yes.
So Trump wants to radically move education into a more patriotic, traditional sense, bringing more of the patriotic tones to public education, and also getting back to the nuclear family, a mother and a father, and roles of men and women in society.
Yeah. I think there is a case for, more traditional roles. If you don't facilitate reproduction, you will eventually lose. There is a case for that. Now, taking out the Department of Education, another big policy of his.
Right.
Where have I heard that before?
And
Nikki Haley, and
conservatives in general have always trumpeted, getting rid of the Department of Education.
And it's another case of him going with the flow, going with the public. It is a good strategy. There are so many flaws with the way we teach history, the way we teach economics and social studies at large. There are so many crippling flaws. I am disappointed that the Biden administration did not put any emphasis on that. If we are going to go on the federal scale, because even the conservatives are going on the federal scale. Okay. At that point, the can is open, the genie's out the bottle. And on the state level, instead, it's become a game of politicizing. It's
sure.
Trump in the past has self-identified himself as a nationalist. His words, which is generally not the best mindset to have. But I think his ideal version of history would be a nationalist one, and it's good, to be proud of your country, to say the ways that early America was progressive, the way that they changed the game forever.
Sure.
How we revolutionized the way governments were made.
Story though.
Yeah, exactly. But it's also important to emphasize the way that we grow, where we can improve, where to, there's so much to note.
Trump does want to improve the safety in schools. And
yes.
By doing that, he wants to hire more veterans, more police officers to teach, and not only just to teach and be involved in the everyday curriculum of schools, but also to have concealed weapons.
Yeah, that's definitely. Actually, turn off my mic there. That would be a policy for better and for worse. Ultimately, most guys with guns are good, some are not. Would that actually curb violence? We don't really know. We haven't tried it yet. I don't have too thick an opinion on that.
Okay. He also wants to limit or eliminate funding for any school districts that require mask mandates for another pandemic, and also will require school prayer. So he's got quite the agenda in front of him.
Yeah, it's sweeping.
And as we talk more about domestic policy, homelessness, Trump has something to say about what his plan is for homelessness.
Oh, you're prompting me to say it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, he wants a more federal standard, because right now policy surrounding what happens to, that homeless population is largely on the state level.
He wants 10 cities on inexpensive land.
Yes, that's the other thing. He wants to move them into their own communities and outside the streets of everyone else.
Right.
However,
bring back institutions of mental health, large
asylums,
mental health.
Asylums. Call it as it is. He wants to bring back asylums. There were so many issues with asylums, people being committed that shouldn't have been, being unable to leave, horrible abuse. There was a lot of issues with these asylums. If we're going to go down that road,
very little regulation.
We got to then
monitoring.
Yeah, you would need to do it very differently compared to how it was done. It wasn't phased out for no reason.
Public safety. We talked earlier about immigration, border control, bringing back the wall, bringing troops from overseas to man the southern border. Now we get a little bit more granular in regards to our cities, to say public safety in our cities.
Yes.
He wants to do more with the National Guard and have the National Guard have a greater presence in some of our urban centers, like Chicago.
Yeah. I get the idea behind having the military there to protect citizens.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people are a little too overzealous with the protection of the southern border. Like, it's important, but that's another thing. But I think there are also a lot of drawbacks to having your streets run by the military. It was one loud car. Even if on paper they're there to make people safe, most people will not feel safe. A lot, you run in, some would, but I think most wouldn't. When you man the street full of firearms, you not only invite challenge from crazy people,
sure,
but you also open the door to bad guys with guns.
Sure.
Unfortunately, most are good, but there will be bad apples.
Trump wants shoplifters to understand that if you are caught by law enforcement, if you're seen by law enforcement shoplifting, to expect to be shot on sight.
It's very bold. That's all I have to say about that. I have nothing else to add.
He also wants to bring the death penalty for drug smugglers. He's being very heavy-handed as far as public safety.
It's a very hardliner policy at the end of the day. It's it's high-end sentencing, it's high-end punishment.
Mm-hmm.
Death sentence is a cornerstone, whether that's being shot, by law enforcement or being sentenced to it. That's going to be the key of it.
And the final point, and it's not necessarily in this article, but it's been mentioned in prior podcasts that we've had, and also in other articles, but particularly in regards to Project 2025, and reducing or eliminating the administrative state. In essence, reducing the federal workforce. That is something that is high on the agenda for Project 2025. That's a lot of people being sent home, being fired, a lot of women who occupy public service.
It is. I mean, I don't know why women are more important than anybody else holding it, but point is that you lose out on a lot. You get to cut government spending, small, that way if you were to cut taxes, you wouldn't have to force a high deficit. There is a benefit to it. Weak government can be strong government.
Mm-hmm.
However, given what we covered about the deep state earlier, I think those cuts, a lot of them are going to end up in the law enforcement side of the government. It's going to be in the FBI. I think it's going to be in the judiciary. The judiciary is already overworked. We haven't expanded it in decades. We haven't added new seats, but the population is steadily growing. Workload is steadily growing. If you want to see how bad it can get, the Circuit Court of Appeals. Oh boy, Do not envy the work of those folks. They have so much on their plates. I would be open to the idea of reducing the size of the federal government, but it would have to be very tactfully done, and it wouldn't have to be, because some places in the government are perfectly funded, others are very underfunded. If it's going to places that are already underfunded, then I would be against it. But there are potential upsides to be had with such a policy.
In closing, so Trump being the presumptive Republican nominee for president,
yes,
does he have a platform, an agenda that a clear majority of Americans in enough electoral states, electoral college states, to get him elected to implement this plan as president?
I don't think this could just be a cynical jackass take, but I don't think your policy platform is actually the most important thing to most voters. I think what's going to be important to Trump is how he markets himself and how he slams his opponent. I think it's going to be, how he turns on the weaknesses onto the weaknesses of the Biden presidency, right, and how he advertises that everything bad will be fixed. I think if most Americans were to break this down, I think most Americans would have a problem with some, if not all of it. I think most Americans, pretty much any people who are educated on the economy, will have a lot of negative things to say about the tariffs. I think a lot of people, knowing his history with the word nationalism, which he loves so much, will have natural questions about, what does his teaching of history entail? You're going to shrink the size of the federal government, but to whom it goes. But most Americans, I don't think they're going to look too deep into it.
That was a political answer by all said. Look, I say 45-47. Thank you very much. Donald Trump is going to win the election, and because of Biden's incompetence, 100%, the fact that he is not really in charge is the way that people are looking at it. I have had Democrats that say, I am a solid Democrat, but I cannot stand what Biden has done. I'm voting for Donald Trump. They don't care about his policies.
I know.
They just care about it was better at one time. It got worse, and they're very disappointed in the direction the country's going. But if abortion becomes the issue, if Kamala Harris actually becomes the candidate, the nominee because of a sudden death or coma or some tragedy happens to the president, then abortion becomes the number one issue. Then I see it as trouble. Right. I see if Donald Trump was not in the equation, that people would lean towards Nikki Haley right now.
I agree.
Because Nikki is attracting to the women, and the women want to vote for her because they've been insulted by Donald Trump, and they would have now found somebody in the conservative party they can follow. Right.
And Nikki Haley has done a good job, I think, hitting a balance with her campaign between appealing to your classic conservatives and striking a more moderate tone. But she won't win.
But right out of the bat, I see a 45-47 now.
Right.
So much of it will be determined by the future. Whether we like it or not, we don't really know how the court cases will affect this. It might help him. It might hurt him. It might do nothing at all. But that will certainly change things, and it'll be a learning experience for everybody who takes interest in campaigns, in the elections. I think ultimately as well, it'll be what the economy looks like. The number one determinator, I don't think that's a word, of the number one determining factor of whether or not an incumbent wins or loses, and this has been universal every time an incumbent has lost. It's about how well the economy did. They do it with the Dow Jones average and the misery index. It was why so many people predicted a Trump loss and why the Trump loss came. It's why H.W. Bush, despite being so popular, lost, even with Perot in the race. It would have happened anyways because the economy had begun to sink again. It's been a very, very, very consistent pattern with American history.
So I'm now going to throw a monkey wrench at you.
Hit me.
because Obama got reelected with the worst economy out of all those economies up to.
It's about how the economy changes, not just how it is.
It's about how voters come out. But yes, the economy plays a lot into it.
It's about whether the economy got better or if the economy got worse from the beginning of their presidency to the end. And it'll be whether or not the economy recovers enough. It is showing pretty considerable growth. Stay tuned later this week.
Yeah, we're going to have this discussion at a different time. But you know what? David, final word.
My point is that I think the larger picture here is the bullshit Project 2025 that will present itself.
Mandate for leadership. Wait. Mandate for leadership, the conservative promise.
Thank you. Say that again.
Mandate for leadership, the conservative promise. I just want you to know what Project 2025 is called so you can find it.
Oh, yes. I've talked about this 6-8 months ago. We did this. And the brief that I read, it was a 200-page brief that I read, scares the shit out of me. And Americans should be incredibly concerned. If you're comfortable with giving away your rights like you did with the Patriot Act 1 and the Patriot Act 2, and as we move forward, knock yourselves out. However, I'm not. And as our rights to privacy are slowly being eroded by this Supreme Court, by our government, this is a cause for concern. I urge everyone, do your own damn research. Please do your own damn research. Just don't take it from us. Thank you, Kellen, for your insight. It was very informative. However, Project 25, they're saying the awful things in the light, out loud. Yeah. And if this is where we're headed to a strongman America, so be it. I'd rather not be a part of it, but I'm an American, and I'm going to do everything I can to vote in the best interest of myself, my family, and my community in America.
And it is in your best interest to have low tariffs, and it is in your best interest to hit that like button. Like, comment, subscribe, share. We love conversation, and we love more people in our community. If you watch to the end, thank you so very much. Have a great day.